business world is changing at a fundamental level. And that is where everyone need to start thinking about adopting a different mindset, adopting different ways of working, and continuous learnability is going to be the game of the future.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the People Hum interview series. This is your host Neha at People Hum. People Hum is an end-to-end, one-view, integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and channel that receives more than 200,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. We have with us today Sandeep Barve, founder, CEO, and MD of in-unison Business Reinvention. He specializes in business advisory and strategic consulting while equipping and empowering leaders to effectively lead their organizations in the digital world. As a keynote speaker, he has spoken on topics like transformation, analytics, unconventional strategies for digital era, and many more. Organizations invite him to address their leadership team on digital leadership, how to effectively lead in the digital and disruptive world, and we're hoping that we can speak to him on this today as well. So with that, let me welcome you once again, Sandeep. Welcome to People Hum.
Thanks, Sneha. Thank you very much for having me for this conversation, and I'm looking forward for an interesting conversation as well as interaction. Thanks.
Thank you, me too. So Sandeep, you're the founder, CEO, and MD of in-unison Business Reinvention. Can you tell us about how the company came to be and the work that you do there?
Okay. See, prior to starting in Unison, the consulting avatar, basically I had 3 decades of corporate career. So I worked across multinational companies, predominantly into a BFSI space like Citigroup, HSBC, Barclays, and over 3 decades have grown up in terms of various leadership positions. As far as the actual work and contribution to these organizations is concerned, it was predominantly on developing strategies for growth. That's one. As things move up, I was instrumental in implementing various systems across the globe, and it include also setting up of a center of excellence for data warehousing and business analytics and so on and so forth, as well as there were a number of transformation initiatives that I handled that include workforce transformation, financial transformation program. So with this enriched experience, the driver behind starting in Unison as a consulting venture was how can I leverage this global experience first to begin with in Indian context for the Indian companies, especially around SMEs, family businesses, and medium to large businesses, so that one, they become competent in terms of competing on a global scale, expand, grow. That is one. And from a global perspective, how can I take the ethics and Indian value system, which is seen in family businesses across, and there are many family businesses which are really grown up, to the global scale. So it's kind of mix of both, the blend of both the worlds. And the journey started basically with the thought process of transforming organizations. Okay, so it has its element of transforming leadership, transforming systems, processes, so on and so forth. And today, as we moved in the digital era, I'm moving more towards reinventing the organizations, because today what is happening, the digital era is already settled in. Now, what is happening is basically companies are kind of into a catch-up mode as far as digital is concerned. There is time to move to the next competitive advantage, and that's going to be through business reinvention. So here I am in terms of helping clients to reinvent their businesses, and there are multifaceted activities that we undertake.
Wow, that's very interesting, Sandeep. I feel like the point that you mentioned about taking Indian values and sort of applying them to a more global setup, I feel like that's very important in today's world. And I also feel like that's a very thoughtful thing to do. So that's absolutely amazing. Moving on to the next question, I want to ask you, establishing new capabilities is the need of the hour in today's pandemic-ridden world, and that's something that we also briefly spoke about right now. How would you
Yeah.
say that HR leaders look to implement change initiatives?
Mhm. See, I think one of the thing is change management, change initiative is not really new. The way it changes is basically the instrument, the vehicle is keep on changing every time, right?
Right.
Now, the need for new capability was already there. If you look at it, what has happened is pandemic has accelerated that. And in fact, I would say it's kind of blessing in disguise, although I am mindful of the fact that many people might have lost job. It has been tough on businesses and everything. But if you look at the other side of the coin, companies are really gearing up in terms of faster digital adoption because everybody has realized what earlier was thought as impossible, what earlier was thought as extremely time consuming, people could swiftly within days and weeks
Yes.
move on to the digital remote working possibility, which wasn't imagined, right? So that is the blessing in disguise, I would call it. Now if you look at the change management perspective, basically the new capabilities, it's not just about digital. If you look at the last decade, we have undergone through lot many change initiatives. One, it is all about adopting digital latest technologies and all that, but we have seen organizations adopting lean models and agile models. So those are one, quickly adopting the new ways of doing things, so on and so forth. So creativity, innovation, fast learnability, and experience creation. And one of the things which pandemic has taught us is basically how organizations can become resilient. So
Right.
HR is going to play a crucial role, and they are already playing a crucial role. I come across a lot many HR folks as a part of my business, and I see two or three different trains. So, depending upon which industry, the pace of adoption, and that includes the HR adoption, differs. So, IT is most aggressive and prudent and progressive, I would say, followed by BFSI. Manufacturing, little bit laggard, but it is waking up. And HR leaders, I'm also part of NHRDN forum for manufacturing, and I do see when we conduct the initiatives on Industry 4 and digital transformation, lot many HR leaders are today taking interest on that, realizing that it is not just about operational HR, but also about strategic HR. So that is a good part which I see, and this coming decade, I'm sure it is going to accelerate.
Absolutely. The point that you mentioned about, this is something that was already on the verge of happening, and the pandemic has, in a way, just accelerated that change. But also, not just in terms of technology, but everything else that you just mentioned right now. I feel like that's a very nuanced take on how we're actually moving towards change and how we're sort of becoming comfortable with that change. Sandeep, you offer a full suite of services through your associates, some of which include branding, web and mobile app development, etc. So, would you say that HR softwares are hopping onto the bandwagon? And how do you see technology aiding HR professionals today?
Mhm. See, as a part of our engagement with clients, and there are multiple clients, basically we work across SMEs, that I would say around 60-70%, and 20% we work around corporates. 10% my work happens around the startup ecosystem, as well as
Mm-hmm.
kind of pro bono work that I keep on doing. So
Mm-hmm.
across all these areas, I do see a different flavor of technology adoption. As a part of our interventions, there are three things that predominantly happen, and that's where the role of HR comes in play. One is basically it is all about mindset change, right? So first we work on developing the digital and growth mindset, helping leaders and managers to adopt that mindset, and that's where HR play a crucial role in terms of really moving up the value chain and understanding digital. That is
Right.
extremely important. So if I have to say that as a part of HR state with digital, if we have to say so, has begun with from a perspective of one operational HR. So it is all about digitization, the first level or
Mm-hmm.
first way of digital. The second wave is more coming in terms of preparing the workforce for the future. And that is where,
Right.
from an HR perspective, one, the hiring part, the recruitment part. because new roles are emerging, new expectations are coming, new
Absolutely.
attitudinal and behavioral aspects are coming, because we need now the workforce in terms of more learnable people,
Yes.
more resilient people, more adaptability, and more creativity. So obviously, HR is donning that hat in terms of first understanding the change and how they can then bring that change in the organization. So to begin with, it all started with operational HR, as I call it, more in terms of implementing those in hiring and recruitment. But as I have seen it progresses and mature organizations moving up the value chain, one, putting in terms of further data driven organization, becoming a
Yes.
data driven organization, right? And that is where there are multiple areas, truly speaking. So hiring right talent is just one, but reskilling and upskilling is second. The
Yes.
other aspects is going to be crucial in terms of employee engagement, overall employee experience, and then in today's context, measuring remote working performance or their interactions and all these things, right?
Yes.
So all these things, I see that HR leaders are embracing digital. That is one biggest change that I see. One, they
Mhm.
are readily accepting. The initial change has been in terms of how they can improve the efficiency, how they can hire better and reduce the time and cost. Now it is moving more towards analytics, more towards data driven decision making, and more towards overall looking at human capital management as a complete integrated a platform rather than a multiple
Absolutely.
suite of plug-in products. So that is the change I force.
Definitely, definitely. I feel like that was a very insightful answer, Sandeep. I agree with everything that you just said. And the fact that we can see these changes happening around us right now are a testament to the fact that this is probably what is going to happen in the near future as well. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. The next thing that I want to ask you is, what, according to you, is the future of people analytics?
Mhm. My connection with analytics goes back around 2000, and that's where 2000,
Wow.
2003, I started working on the then it was data warehousing platforms. And the evolution of that started happening first around financials, second around risk management, and third around sales and marketing. But as things evolved, people are realizing that the people angle is going to be important, right?
Yes.
And that is where, see, if you look at it, one, organizations are becoming more data driven decisioning, right? Second, people are realizing that the future is going to be competitive advantage can only be created through human capital. The people is going to be the
Absolutely.
biggest asset. We have been
Yes.
talking about it, but now is the time people are realizing that is
Absolutely.
going to be the competitive difference. So that is where has heightened the need of people analytics, and there are multiple dimensions of people analytics. One of that, if you see that employee experience is becoming a big driver in terms of, because finally we have the best employees are going to provide best customer experience, right? The best employees
Absolutely.
are going to be more involved, engaged in terms of empathizing with customer and creating innovative offerings and products. So
Yes.
from that perspective, I see that HR need a data analytical wing, a separate kind of infrastructure platform, as well as skills to analyze. So it is going to be, while data
Absolutely.
science people were talking more about from a business perspective, I do see that role evolving more in terms of HR professionals
Yes.
as well.
Absolutely.
So analyzing employee from multiple dimensions. And one of the thing, let me talk about is it time for us to look at a different set of HR metrics? Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
far we have been looking at HR metrics more from a performance perspective of recruitment, hiring, and maybe some level of L&D and some level of maybe how do you measure the performance and reward recognition and all that.
Yes. Yes.
But let me put this futuristic questions, and that is
Mm-hmm.
where I would see a larger role of people analytics will come in picture. Should we, as HR leaders, should be looking at how we demonstrate the impact of workforce on three things. One is the top line, second is the bottom line, and third is creating competitive advantage. How do we measure that? Second question is, do we see HR as a function accountable for success or failure of change initiatives? Right? And
Yeah.
that is really going to be the crux in terms of the future of analytics and especially around people analytics. Because four areas which I mentioned, one is basically in terms of employee experience, internal recruitment. That is another dimension. So while I have seen people adopt technologies for hiring as far as external recruitment is concerned, there is lesser focus in terms of internal reskilling and identifying the real talent gaps from a future perspective. That is where I see the crucial role of people analytics, getting all this data in terms of data coming in from external sources. For example, we want to know social listening and what our employees are talking in terms of it's not just about brand and image, but it's also in terms of their attitude, their behaviors, how they are co-working with teams. All these things is going to be feasible from an analytical world.
Absolutely. I feel like that is a very, very interesting take on it. And I'm sure that our audience will agree that, we will definitely think about this in this way because, like we just spoke, the world is changing. The way that we measure things is also to a point going to change. And
Sure.
it's about time that we also change the way that we look at it and ask new questions that lead us to new findings. So thank you for that. And Sandeep, lastly, do you have any sound bites for our audience?
Well, if you really look at it, what we
Mm-hmm.
need to understand is if you look at today's business, what is happening is with digital and disruptions, everything is changing,
Yes.
right? The way the business is operating, it is changing. The way companies are producing things is changing. The way they are selling is changing. The way companies are servicing, making customers happy, and in fact, the way companies are making money, everything is changing, right? So, first thing people need to understand, irrespective of industry, irrespective of the role and responsibilities and all that, that the business world is changing at a fundamental level. And that is where everyone need to start thinking about adopting a different mindset, adopting different ways of working, and continuous learnability is going to be the game of the future, right? Now, the other thing which is happening is last era, if it was a era of digitization, digital transformation, so in an organization, CIO and related teams were getting prominence, right? I see the future decade is going to be the decade of people, people asset, human capital, and that is where I see that CHROs have an opportunity to earn the seat at the table. They would be more in demand because
Right.
technology is getting commoditized, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what is going to be the differentiator? People is going to be the differentiator. Right people,
Absolutely.
right skills, learnability, how they can keep on improving themselves is going to be significant advantage. And that is where first HR professionals need to reinvent themselves to reinvent the organization, right?
Definitely,
So,
definitely.
if we have to figure it out, what is going to be the contribution of HR? We will have to look it into this value addedness and how they can create the future of organization, future of workforce, and future of workplaces. That is going to be the key element of HR professionals role. If we look at, and one of the part of my driver, we do look at the unconventional strategies, how we can really think in terms of. So if you look at it, what is happening is, look at the way the world is changing. From physical assets, we are moving to digital assets. From business centricity, the world of product and services, we are moving to customer centricity, right? From a command and control management style, we are moving towards empowerment and moving from constraint driven to focus driven, right? Now the world
Definitely.
is changing from sales pipeline to innovation pipeline, isn't it? So all these things, while changing, there is a greater opportunity for HR to be in control and basically drive the change. So technology was
Definitely.
driving the change in the last decade. Coming decade is going to be for HR to drive the change through people as a significantly differentiated asset.
Definitely. I feel like that puts a lot of things into perspective, and I'm sure that our audience will share my views that after this is over, I'll really be thinking about everything that we just spoke about because it's a whole other perspective to so many things that are happening around us. And I feel like it takes conversations such as these to understand that this is what is actually happening. All we need to do is just stop and think. So thank you so much for that. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. I wish you and your business all the best.
Thank you. Thanks, Sneha. And what you said is correct. Today's world is all about ecosystem. It is not about
Yes,
competition. It is about collaboration. And through
definitely.
such interactions and discussions, we learn each other learns a lot,
Absolutely.
right? And that is going
Absolutely,
to
yes.
be beneficial to the world. So thanks for having me on this show. And I hope everyone has enjoyed. And two-way street, I have also learned. Thanks.
Thank you.